Hey, and welcome back to the VHS Club. We are ready to dive into movies from the 90s that you have probably already seen. And this week we are joined by special guest host Doc Rock. Natalie is out on dinner party night tonight and is quite distraught about it. So she will have to pretend to be Doc Rock tonight, or Doc Rock will have to pretend to be her tonight. Thanks for hanging out, Doc.
That's okay. Can do it. Good. It's exciting. It's super funny because we decided to do this movie. Because I don't know, I made a stupid suggestion, but I just always thought this movie was a good movie to watch when you have one of those days where your brain is just mad and you don't want to do nothing else. So I just want to turn it off. So like this movie and Scary Movie and like a good Airplane or something just so stupid that it's good.
Yep.
Yeah, this fits that description.
No, this is perfect. So Doc was in the comments an episode or 2 episodes ago, and we were asking for movie recommendations, and you were like, "Can't hardly wait." And I was like, "Yes, that's the one." And you have to come on and hang out with us for it. So yeah, this is an absolutely perfect choice. And before we jump too far into it, I need to answer a question from our live chat. We have Tommy hanging out with us. If you want to hang out live with us, we record live on YouTube on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can always hang out here with us. Or you can listen. You can listen wherever you get your favorite podcast. We do that. We roll out. But because Tommy's here hanging with us, he gets to ask a crazy question in what is a Christian tater? And I will answer this question without Nat here because it's way funnier without her here actually to talk this through. So one of Natalie's all-time favorite movies is Pump Up the Volume, and one of our diehard fangirl crushes is Christian Slater. So we haven't got there yet because we need to build. We need to build to it. But as a joke one year for Christmas, I ordered Nat, you can ship a potato with a picture printed on it. So I sent her a I think it was a lamp that was the VHS copy of Pump Up the Volume, which she should definitely put in the background of some of these shots, and then Christian Tater in a box. So I think originally I had a different name for him that was like a play on potato, but she was like, "It's Christian Tater," and we were like, "Yes, this needs to be our movie rating system." So every movie that we talk about here on the VHS Club, we are rating 1 through 5 Christian taters, including today. So you will find out at the end of this episode how many Christian taters I have decided this movie is. But without further ado, we can jump in. So if you missed it, this week we are talking about Can't Hardly Wait, which we're still in the 90s. I thought it would be difficult to stay in the 90s. I was like, okay, maybe we have to do also late 80s, early 2000s, but everyone has been making such good suggestions that we're going to be on week 1,000 before we get outside of the 90s. There's so many good movies. This one is 1998, so it's like prime for me. This is like right high school. I was living this movie, everything about it.
You know, when this movie came out, basically 88, 89. I'm sorry, 98, 99.
Yeah.
My best friend from school, he was the manager of the 16-plex. So I literally went to the movies every Thursday, Sunday for like 52 weeks in a row. Like didn't miss any. Thursday nights was because the film came in and you got to test it before the premiere on Friday. You just want to make sure there's no pops or no breaks or nothing got damaged in shipping.
Yep.
Now they're all digitally played in, but before you used to have to bring them in. And so he's like, hey, I got to screen this at midnight Thursday. So we would just go down and we have the whole theater to ourselves. It was just me and a couple of friends, like anybody that we would invite, and then a couple of the other workers.
Yeah.
And so I got to see so many in this like 2-year span. I think I saw just about everything that hit the theater. Pretty much.
Doc's gonna be out every week. Well, we should like go live over to Doc for his feedback on each one of these movies.
Yeah, I can go stand in front of the consolidated theaters and like be holding a box of popcorn and just like, hey guys, I'm at the movies. Yo.
Oh gosh, yeah,
So cool.
I love that era of just. I feel like I don't do it as much anymore. I couldn't even remember the last time I went to the movie theater, but there was something so epic about going. And Nat and I used to go and like back to back. Like we would just buy like, or like what is the first one that's playing? Great, we'll be there. What's after that? Also great,
Yes.
we'll be there. Yeah, it was.
Well, when you're in high school, it got harder. But when multiplexes first came out was when I was in high school, and so it was relatively easy to go to like the first matinee at 11 and then just walk to all the other theaters while the credits are on, sneak into the next one.
Oh yeah.
They got much better with adjusting the times,
Yeah.
so that it was harder to do that. But we would go stay all day long at the theater.
Oh my
So
gosh.
crazy.
All right. Well, let us jump in. I was saying before we officially started recording that this is one that doesn't have like a really intense plot, quote unquote. This one, the whole story of this movie is that Ethan Embry, who, if you've been following along, we're now on third episode, third Ethan Embry movie. So we're on a theme. We have a solid theme going here. But Ethan Embry, who we adore, is the main character in this movie, and he is the most likable person. Like as this movie continues on, you just realize that he sort of transcends all of the stereotypical cliques at this high school. There's like every possible clique, right? There's like the nerds, the cheerleaders, the sports jocks, the stoners, the like literally every conceivable clique. And yet, as the night goes on at this epic end of high school house party that we all remember fondly, everyone seems to know him and everyone seems to talk positively about him, and that's kind of impressive. Like if you really think about it, for someone to just be that well liked by literally everyone in the school.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, and well, the writing of this is also what makes it sort of the duality of it, right? Because if you really think about school, there's always one kid in school that everybody knows or knows of.
Yeah.
And he's the everybody knows of because he's like the valedictorian.
Yeah.
But doesn't really know because he doesn't have a huge posse of friends.
Yeah.
Whereas
he's the floater. He like floats
right, he's the floater.
All the groups. Yeah.
Whereas Amanda is the person that everybody knows because she's the it girl.
Yeah. And yet
you see what I mean?
And yet there are two sides of the same coin because no one really knows her and no one really
Correct.
knows him. Like they are just known through rumor and gossip, which is entirely how the movie starts. So, it starts with all these people talking about this epic party that's going on. Not a single one of them has any idea who's actually throwing the party or hosting the party, but everyone is going to go. And everyone is talking about the fact that Amanda, the it girl, has just been dumped. So there's all of the gossip and all of the rumors, and it just immediately takes you back to high school. And no matter what high school you went to, wherever you went to high school, you lived through some aspect of this.
You feel that. You
feel
absolutely
that.
feel that. And it's so funny. I think that was one of the best parts of it is also when you see him going through the party looking for her.
Yeah.
It's almost the way you go through school trying to find your identity.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So in the same way he's looking for this girl that's his girl that he wants to be with, these are all the individual cliques he could have been a part of, but he's not a part of any of them.
Yeah.
And it's not to show that he's an outsider. That's also the general conflict you have at that age, trying to figure out who you are.
Yeah. Yeah,
and he
he's
doesn't
almost
know.
dabbled in all these different personalities, and the fact
Correct.
that he's not with her anyway is entirely because he just never really got up the courage to talk to her. Right? He's like was just a little bit late, and she ended up with the popular asshole of a guy, and he's written this heartfelt letter, and it was totally. So I'm a diehard John Cusack fan. Actor John Cusack, like in the movies, not actual person John Cusack, who seems a little intense, but the notion of just like sitting there and writing this like epic love letter to someone and rewriting it and like having his friends read it for him, and like and every song that he hears is like a reminder of like a sign that he should be talking to her. Like the more that I watched it, Dana and I were playing this game of like, what character do you resonate most with? Like, who were you in high school? And I was just like, I was totally Ethan Embry, who lived in this like fantasy land and never like was like friendly with everyone, but never really like a deep friend with anyone there, and always was like a little bit not quite confident enough to just fully say what I thought or even know what I really thought or felt. So
What?
I
That's
definitely
funny you
resonated with
say
it.
that. It's funny you say that because I resonate with Ethan Embry in this movie for the simple reason that I too was a floater, but just like now, I got along with everybody.
Yeah.
So although I was an athlete, I fully kicked it with the stoners. I fully kicked it with the Uber nerds, the science club, the math guys, because I was that too. So in a way, it was very similar, and I think I completely imagined him, but like I could have been Bill or William. They call him in, a couple different times in the movie.
Yeah.
I could have been Mike. I could have been any one of them because that was totally me, and it was even in the band in high school.
Oh,
So
there you go. I was never in the band, so I can't take that.
As the DJ, like I worked at a restaurant, so I was keg supply. You know, whenever we were going to do one of these parties, we had a thing. You buy the red cup for $5 and you show up at the party, right?
Yeah.
And then to get the kegs, any of us that worked at restaurants, we would put it in the back, like you're taking out the trash, and put
Yeah.
a full keg out in the back. And somebody with a pickup would come by and go to all the myriad restaurants on the shifts that we worked on the Wednesday and Thursday before the party and collect them. And then we would just return the empty kegs back on Sunday when the restaurant would close. So that's how we got beer. It was super funny. And, somebody, my friend Donnie had a tap, and everybody knew Donnie would show up, and that was the thing. So it's kind of funny that you say, you identify with him from the fact that I was kind of sort of Amanda, but not like, at least I was really connected to almost everybody.
Yeah.
Super funny.
Yeah, but there were like all these moments throughout the movie where I kept sort of like kind of changing my mind. It was like, okay, no, I think I'm really Ethan Embry, but then his like girl best friend that he like somewhat dated and it never really worked out. And then I was like, kind of her, like, and I feel like I love the 90s. I feel like this doesn't exist anymore in the like rom-coms of today, or maybe there's just not as many teen rom-coms as there used to be, but the idea of there was always like the girl best friend or the girl next door, the guy next door, and this idea of like, will they, won't they, have they, should they, are they just friends? It totally took me back to some of the like Pretty in Pink, Some Kind of Wonderful vibe.
Yes.
Where like, and in this movie they're not like they don't appear to have any kind of love interest with each other. She's incredibly supportive of him going after Amanda. They seem like they had dated at some point and it just didn't work out. But it is kind of nice as someone that grew up with a lot of guy best friends or guy friends, many of whom I'm still good friends with. It was nice to kind of see that dynamic, and I feel like I've missed that in a lot of movies these days, where it was always it was like that, that kind of like close friend dynamic that I feel like they don't. Really
I feel like nowadays what they do is either it's two cheat codes, so they just put them together, or they always connect the guy or the girl with a guy or a girl who's not into guys or girls.
Yeah,
right.
It's
true. Like they do the GBFF some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
and it's dope because they're adding the inclusivity of it. True. But I'm like, it's not as common as you would think. You know what I mean? You're right, because I have a metric ton of my female friends that are like my little sisters, and we're super tight to this very day. from everything from high school all the way to now. And one of my best friends in school all the time was CJ, and everybody swore up and down that what colleague that at some point in time that she and I dated or would date or whatever. But we were just the best of friends. We lived on the same block.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like her dad just liked me being around because she was smaller and just knew nothing would happen to her if I was around. So he treated me better than he treated any of her boyfriends.
Yeah.
And that always kind of pissed her off. Like, oh, my dad just really loves you. And it's because he knows I won't let nothing happen to you. He knows that I will smash someone. Because she was, pretty much like my little sister. And then we did everything together. And you're right, you just don't see that in movies nowadays.
Yeah, you really don't. And like the other movies that we've covered, this is also, I feel like at least the first few that we've gotten into, and as we watch more and kind of remind myself, but every single cast has been incredible. Every single soundtrack has been incredible. I feel like this 2 seconds into the movie, I'm like downloading that soundtrack onto my phone. Forgot how much I love those songs.
Yes, Smashing Pumpkins is all over this.
All of that, like Blink, I'm trying to think what else. Every song that came up, I was just like, love this song, and the music again just takes you back in the same way that Empire Records does, and like it just really brings you kind of back to that time period. I mean, in the same way, certainly as the, whereas the kind of the story is really universal. I feel like the clothing and the music and just the vibe and the things that they say are certainly very 90s and very reminiscent of that era. So
yes,
it made it really fun for that.
I think one of the best parts is when we first get introduced to Kenny.
He's so great. He's so great. Seth Green, for anyone that hasn't seen this. Yeah.
Right at that time, he's actually the biggest actor in the whole thing.
Oh yeah, hands down.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because of actually I think him and Donald Faison are the two biggest actors at this time.
Yeah.
Because of Clueless. Actually, dang, it's three of them. So him, Breckenmeyer, Donald Faison, they're the biggest because of Clueless and because of Married with Children.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And at that time, Seth was just starting Robot Chicken. So, and Brecken is also Robot Chicken. So
interesting.
they're massive,
yeah.
Right? They're completely massive. So he comes out and he's playing like Busta Rhymes. And that was just, I mean, to this day, I remember how I cracked up when that first came on. And then it was more funny seeing it again. Because
it was much more fun watching it again because you just know how, like, you feel like you know him because he's just been in so many things and he's just such an icon and he plays it so well. Like, you watch him and like there's this moment of just being like, oh my God, you're terrible. But also he's so likable. Like you can't help but like him, and his whole character is just like, this is pre-American Pie, but his whole character is basically just the plot of it. Like, all he's trying to do is have sex with as many women as possible. Or at least that's what he thinks he wants to do, right? And
yes, exactly.
And he's so, like, ridiculous about it, and so clearly not even kind of popular, but he's just, like, so likable throughout the movie. You're like, dude, I don't know.
His lines are so good.
Oh,
the funniest. And I think the other reason why I remember us having a raucous laugh, because we would go to movies at that time like 10, 15 people deep. And my, at that time, former roommate, but still super close friend and still super close friends to this day, my buddy James is blonde hair, blue eyes, 6 foot tall, but he's from Sacramento, California, grew up in the actual hood, right?
Yeah.
So James is the blackest white dude I've ever met in my life. Like, before Eminem ever was invented, we had James, right?
Yeah.
And to this day, James is still very much like that. And so I remember all of us just cracking jokes on James after the movie, that there's finally a movie with like a James in it.
He can relate deeply to this character.
What's kind of hilarious is, but see, Kenny was more, like trying super hard.
Kenny
like
was
Suburbs
clearly
Kid.
able to turn it off and on. That's
right.
For sure. Yeah.
But James was legit it. So it was just funny though, and I that part just brought back a lot of memories. and how much we used to always tease James. I mean, to this day, his nickname is White Chocolate. Like, this is what we call him because he was
Oh
always
my
that guy.
gosh.
And that part, I mean, God, Kenny, and when they're in the convenience store, just dying, just absolutely dying, and super funny.
His like lovemaking kit, quote
Oh my
unquote, is
God.
absolutely hilarious. Like the hot pink scented candle and just
Yo, that's a candle, bro. Like, get off of it.
And he's got it in like a backpack. Everything about it is just so ridiculous, but so wonderfully relatable for high school, and how like horribly awkward it is, and how you just don't know, but you just so desperately want to be cool, and everyone just failing at it. I mean, even the jock, even the most absolutely like quintessential sports star, most popular guy in school, like his inadequacies come out throughout this movie. I mean, even the idea of like, he breaks up with Amanda, who's like the hottest girl ever, just so that he can have sex with as many women as possible in college, right? That's his whole plan. But he can't even do it alone. He's trying to talk his two like guy friends into also breaking up with their girlfriends so that they can like be this pack of single guys. But if like that's what he really wanted to do, he wouldn't need the other guys to like, he can't even follow through with the plan by himself. He's so like horrifically offended and angry about the fact that his like two bros can't also do the same thing that he did, and that they are, that they're having a fun time and dancing and making out with their girlfriends is like unacceptable to this character throughout the movie.
So here's the funny thing about that part, right? Being a DJ, one of the things that we always had the benefit, it depends on how your club is laid out, but our booth is in the air. Okay, so club owners do a couple things. They put you all the way in the air, so you're at the ceiling, which is irritating because you always got to walk up a bunch of steps or a ladder to get up there.
Yeah.
Or they put you on the ground to save money. The best clubs, you're just enough above that you can see everybody, but low enough that if someone comes to the side to request a song, you can lean over and hear what they got to say. Like, it doesn't require you to step down. So we're talking on average, like 3 pallets stacked high. Not much higher than that, because I'm trying to give you guys a visual of like 2 to 3 pallets stacked on top of each other. That's about how high we want the booth, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because my friends, like, we would sit up there and sometimes we'd be walking and then we'll be like, look across the room and be like, oh, India's single. How do you know? Oh, because she's trying to distract all the rest of her friends away from the boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then sure as grits is groceries, like we would find out later, like, oh yeah, her and so-and-so broke up. And they're like, how do you know that? That's because like, yo, we can see everything. So and it's funny because you can't hear anything because it's loud.
Yeah.
So you have to put these pictures together through observation. And you can always tell the guys that would come in packs or the girls that would come in pack.
Yeah.
And whoever was hiding at the back, trying not to be seen, that person was still connected, but they told everybody that they weren't.
Yeah.
So I can fully relate to that because I watched it for years. I literally watched it happen. All the people get clinked up together and broke up together. So super funny.
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed the fact that he just like had made this decision, this like clearly bad decision, because hello, Jennifer Love Hewitt, but sure, okay, feel free to break up with her. But then he just cannot handle the fact that his friends are like having a fun time and hanging out, and everyone's having a great time at this party. It was just absolutely ridiculous to me.
When they first see him trying to like get his friends' attention and none of them are paying attention
Yeah,
to
they're
him.
just like, yeah, they're not giving it.
Oh my God, that was so good. That was kind of one of the better parts of the whole thing.
I'm like looking through my notes, and my next note after talking about Mike and Amanda's breakup and the ridiculousness that is Mike, says Sabrina the Teenage Witch is in this.
Oh my God. So her character is hilarious, and her opposing character, which is the guy version of her,
Yeah.
is funny because I can fully remember the people in my school that were those people.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh my
every
God.
character is like a complete cliche and a stereotype of like that group or that person that existed at all of these high schools, and yet they just are also likable. That it just works really well. And she's definitely a great one. I mean, she literally carries her yearbook with her throughout the entire movie. And she's a pivotal character because it is because of her that Amanda ends up finding Ethan Embry's character at the end. Because, spoiler alert for this movie, the whole movie is moving through this party and meeting all of these various cliques and all of these different characters. And, and Ethan Embry trying desperately to find and admit his love for Amanda and just never quite working out but it's because of this yearbook and because of the ridiculousness that is who I will always call Sabrina the Teenage Witch, that it works out in the end. She's fantastic.
So here's what's crazy to me about this. If you go again, starting with her, because she's kind of the first. Okay, there's two people in here. It's hard to even wrap your head around this. There's two people in here.
Yeah, I thought you were frozen. You're like, wait a sec.
No. They're hyper important to the story, but yet not. And the reason why, to me, it's so epic, and the writers would never have known any of this at the time. It just happened to work out. So therefore, it makes it be like a full microcosm of high school, right? The popular kids remain popular until they're not. Mm-hmm. A lot of the unsung heroes or the nobodies are the people who you just barely can remember their name. Yep. One day you're reading the newspaper and, your friend Paul from school is now like big time, working at some famous company, like doing big things, right? So when you look at somebody like Melissa Joan Hart, or even better, you go back to Chris Owen. Chris Owen is Klepto Kid. Chris Owen has this movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's super stealth. You're not really paying attention to him, but when you see him, he's freaking hilarious. But I mean, he went on to all kind of stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
Criminal Minds, Hand of God, American Pie, Major Payne, October Sky.
He's in everything,
he's in everything.
His role in this movie is like, if I would ever want to be in a movie, like, I would want that role. Like, he's just I think maybe one line, like, or almost no lines at all, and he's just sort of always in the background, and he's just I feel like they probably didn't even give him any kind of guidance, so just like steal some shit for the background.
They just don't do his thing.
Yeah.
Hey, when he grabbed the gumball machine from the freaking restaurant, I'm just like, bruh, that's super funny. Like, just walk in and pick up an entire gumball machine. Yeah, but again, the writers would never have known any of this.
Oh yeah, no, it was. I'm sure it was just a gimmick, right? It was something fun that would connect the movie.
All of the kids who were the nobody kids in school in this movie all went on to be bigger than any of the main characters.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Mind blown. Absolutely like mind blown.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm laughing at the foreign exchange student who is in this movie.
My God, so
he's
hilarious.
Another like just comic brilliance of it. And I will say, we never, in my high school, we never had a foreign exchange student, so I'm very sad that we didn't get this experience. But in typical like ridiculousness, they are teaching the foreign exchange student how to say preposterous things in English that he, of course, has no idea what he is saying, including "Would you like to touch my penis?"
Would you like to touch my penis? Oh my God!
And that line, and then the first line of the movie, or one of the first lines of the movie, where Ethan Embry says, "Out of all the classrooms in the entire school, she walks into mine." I knew innately by heart seconds before it played, even though I think I've only actually seen this movie maybe twice or three times. Like, it was like, it just like clicked back in at that first line, and then at the line of "Would you like to touch my penis?" And I was like, I'm here for this movie. I remember this epically. Yeah.
So that part is funny. I love the soliloquy in the beginning though.
Yes.
It is Sorkin-esque writing.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good that you're like, damn, that's good. But it's also so far off that, no one really speaks that way.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's why it's so good.
Yeah, I agree. And I love the and again, this is like so incredibly 90s. I feel like they don't do this, or at least often anymore, but it was these, like, you meet these characters at the beginning of the movie, at least the main characters, and after meeting them, they have like their yearbook snapshot and like their, you know, their facts about them. So it's all of their, you know, most likely to be, and like, you know, their quote, and which is representative of the character. And I love the youthfulness and playfulness of that, and I love just like the storytelling of that. I think it's just a really fun way to do that. And then likewise at the end of this movie, they have the kind of like, where are they now follow-ups, which are preposterous and ridiculous. You know, like the nerd kid, you know, becomes basically like the equivalent of Bill Gates, and
Bill Gates, you know,
right? And the jock guy who, you know, threw it all away and broke up with the hottest girl in school. You know, he's like overweight and unemployed and like a total, you know, washout. It's just, I think it's just really fun, and again, very kind of teenage storytelling at its best. But yeah, I agree. It's over the top, and yet really works.
Well, because it kind of sort of happens too, right? Like,
Yeah.
I remember when I had to go home to my mom's funeral, we were about to have our 25th. And I remember some of the most popular kids in our school are just basically still at home, still doing the same thing, basic jobs, not really, you know, came out of it. And makes you wonder, like, where did it all go to?
Yeah.
Right? So it does happen. And I think that's what makes it relatable.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, another incredible, like, I love directors who do this. Another incredible Easter egg, and I don't think they're credited, but the makeout couple, in every scene, they're somewhere in the, you know, it's kind of like back in the day on Playboy covers, there's a bunny somewhere hidden. You just don't know where it is, but there's a bunny curled up in there. The freaking makeout couple is everywhere and everywhere and everywhere. And every time I would just crack up laughing because I love directors that do stuff like that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The amount of nuance that I mean, we probably could watch this movie 3 or 4 times over and pull, if we were paying attention to, you know, to all of the background, everything that's going on at the party. I'm sure that we would pick up on, you know,
And just catch on stuff, right?
tons of
You know what else
things.
was funny was when Amanda's having her sort of, you know, come to Jesus moment, and she's sitting there and she's talking to Ron, her cousin, and he keeps like, you know, trying to get in
Clearly
position,
hitting on her, and she's just like
right?
not registering
And
that
she's
at all.
not catching none of this or whatever. Again, to me, that's funny because that's something. So in my last spot I worked in, I'm literally situated right next to the front bar. And the front bar is more quiet because, well, it's next to the DJ booth. All the speakers are going that way.
Yeah.
So it's where people who try to hook up would go and sit by. And I would just laugh sometimes when you see like dudes like Justin in jockey position trying to get into somebody's sight line. And I'm just watching him do that, and I'm just cracking up. But that's also one of those random places where, you know, you could be playing. Hawaii's a travel destination, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of times when celebrities would come in on either side, where the bar is over here, that's because it's kind of a little hidden nook. That's where they would post up. It's next to the bar. No one's really looking at them. And you walk past the wall to go down to the floor. Unless you look over there, you don't even see the people standing there. And on the opposite side is one of the better VIP booths where we do bottle service.
Yeah.
And I remember walking out of the booth one night at 4 a.m, like completely trashed, ready to go home, like playing the last couple songs, sticking on autopilot, walk up to the bar to, you know, grab a soda water to kind of sober up. And freaking Vilmer Valderrama is like, oh, hey, how's it? I'm like, what the hell are you doing here? So I actually have a picture in my phone of like Vilmer just hanging out in the corner. And for some reason, I don't know why I related Eric, that is cousin Ron, to Vilmer, because completely different.
Oh, yeah.
Eric's NCIS. He's NCIS.
There's a creepiness level to it. Natalie and I've talked about
Yes.
this a lot. And apologies to Wilbur, but maybe he's really nice in real life. So we're reading way
nice
too into this, but he's so like on the line of super creepy in that show, throughout that show. And so like, I think that's what it is, where it's like, especially rewatching it now as an adult in this movie scene, the second that the cousin appears and is talking to her, you're like, get out of the room, Amanda. Things are bad. Like, he's just clearly creepy in his like weird level of kindness and like attentiveness to her. So yeah, it totally made, the second I saw that, made me think of that character of Fez. And I just like, I've always just never
There's a
quite
level of
liked Fez.
ooginess.
Yeah.
Right? There's a ooginess that goes with it. Now, that being said, it wasn't the first scene, but it was one of the scenes that just took me back to how problematic this is now.
Yes, I was gonna say. So spoiler alert to everyone. I gave this a lower rating than I went back and forth a couple of times on the final rating for this. I won't give you my final yet, but because, and I know we're gonna bump up into this number of these movies just because of the era.
Automatic.
But it took me back. So part of the storyline of this movie is that Mike's character, who's the jock that has broken up with Amanda, he has also been a total asshole to all of the nerds, and the nerds have this like uprising moment, which is wonderful. Like, I love Revenge of the Nerds style nerd uprising where they've planned this like epic, they're going to go to this party. The lead nerd is like calculated how much beer he can drink without being drunk, which he's totally off on. Like, and his character is fantastic. Like, he is 100%. So well done. But the whole goal of their revenge plot is to basically drug Mike, drag him outside, take all of his clothes off, and make it look like he's having this homosexual affair outside on the lawn. And it's dripping with such I'm trying to think of the right word. It's so negative that like how it's portrayed, and
condescending.
Condescending, yeah, and just a horrible kind of portrayal, and it's such a bummer. And it just flooded back the memories of like things that were just so normal at that point, quote unquote normal at that point, things that we would say that I would not dream of saying now, things that would just be horribly offensive to close friends and family members that I have now. It was just, it was a rude awakening in that moment where I was like, oh, right, this is in this movie. And I'm sure it's in a bunch of them, but it was super hard to watch.
It was right. And again, like, even for the jocks, because again, I know for a fact it was something that we said all the time.
Oh yeah.
Like when they're like, calling Mike names or whatever.
Yep.
Like, I was like, oh man, it's super problematic. That's there. There's like the cousin Ron thing is almost a little like date rapey.
It's date rapey. There's
right.
Yeah, there are definitely, it's not as overt as it could be, certainly, but there are definitely moments throughout this movie that are just,
well, okay, now this could have been completely random, but the thought just ran through my head. In this movie, at this party, there's no less than 50 people.
Yeah.
And so as Kenny is going around and trying to hit on all these different girls, to find, the girl that he's going to have sex with.
Yeah.
Why is it that the girl they decided to pick is Nicole Bilderback, right? Mm-hmm. She's the only like Hapa girl. Oh, sorry, you guys don't know Hapa. Hapa's like half Asian, right? She's the only Asian girl in the thing.
Yep.
And like, even then, like that, that plays off on this like Asian erotica type thing. And I was like, there was all these people that could have been it.
Yeah.
Why did they pick her?
I know. In a movie that is filled with stereotypes, it definitely had all of the kind of negative side of those stereotypes came definitely screaming out. Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, and so much of it is the time. I mean, not that that's a defense, but I like to think that we're in a different era now, or at least I hope that we are, but it was hard to watch. I was like, oh man, that part of it is just awful.
So yeah, I just thought it was just weird, and it's like, you guys, so much you could have done to make that better.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like a cheap and easy shot. And honestly, today, a lot of movies in this genre will do super easy cheap shots because they don't trust the audience to think it through.
Yeah.
This is my love-hate relationship with Law and Order. I'm like, bro, you did not have to give us that extra clue. We were already there. But the fact that you just blatantly told us kind of irks me, because now it gets rid of the just in case.
Yeah. And I try not to put live comments for our listeners later at home, but Tommy has a really great one. He says that
Yep.
we are 100% viewing this 90s film through a 2023 lens, but I just didn't want to ignore that side of it. And part of the journey for this podcast is us in many ways rewatching movies that defined who we are as people and really like built up kind of our personalities. And we spent so much time living with these characters and in these stories that I think we are going to continue to kind of see some of the negative side of that through our 2023 lens. And I want to point that out, that I do think it's...
Well, that's also a good thing, though, right? Okay, so when I'm a kid, right, and part of the reason why I love movies today was I used to watch a lot of movies with my grandpa.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I used to watch a lot of, like, black and white films from, like, the 20s, 40s, and 50s, where my grandpa and, I had the same thing, People like me in the movies in the 20s, 40s, and 50s, we had one role and one role only, and it was always crap. So, like, watching it with my grandfather was a way of him teaching me that it's better for you now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, in a way, yes, we are judging it with the current thing, but it also gives you a positive understanding of where we come from and how far we've come as a people, right? And it also reminds me to defend and protect certain things more now.
Yeah.
Because I was guaranteed part of the problem back in the day.
Oh, same. Yeah, 100%.
Oh, I can tell you right now, like a whole bunch of my favorite words would get you thrown out of jail back, now and then. So it's in a way, it is good to look at some of the older movies from the positive lens because it shows you your own self-growth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think it's good to have, I'm sort of in some ways happy to have that kind of sinking feeling as I like seconds before these scenes played, where I was just like, oh, I remember what's gonna happen here, and it just made me feel like, oh, like I just like that so much now that I think it's a good uncomfortable feeling to have and a good kind of place to force you back into. So I agree. I would agree with all of that.
It is just a whole different
It's
look.
a culture shift.
Now,
Tommy said it.
Now, I wanted to just take an opportunity to speak on the amount of amazing cameos. I mean, we actually talked about it, but let's name some of these folks.
Oh my gosh,
okay, Melissa Joan Hart was massive, right? That alone was massive. Klepto Kid he's in a lot of stuff, but most people wouldn't. If you say Chris Owens, they don't know who you're talking about. They're going to confuse you with a bunch of the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So the Selma Blair,
yeah.
I forgot because at that time I watched it, she wasn't Selma Blair.
Yeah,
well, she was, but I mean, she wasn't the Selma Blair that we know from Cruel Intentions.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. Throughout this movie, every single time there was a cameo, I feel like I was watching it with Dane, and both of us like pulled up our phones and we were like looking what other movies these actors were in, and then we were immediately like adding those other movies to our list. We're like, oh, we need to rewatch Cruel Intentions, or oh, we need to rewatch. It was just this like endless game of like, who are these various actors? Where are they now? Jason Segel's in this, so that was like another
dude, he's banging right now. He's in a new Apple thing that just started like last Friday. Awesome. Super kind of crazy. Actually, Ethan Embry's in a Netflix joint. Grace and Frankie, Gracie and Frankie, something like that.
Grace and Frankie, that's a good one.
Yeah, so he's in a relatively new one. The last thing I remember him from, because I love Giovanni Ribisi, was Sneaky Pete. Like, yo, Ribisi, that's my G. I don't know. Every movie he's everything heing in. Him and Ed Norton. Oh, he's in this. Do you want to see this? Yes.
Ed Norton. I know, yes.
Automatic.
Yes.
Those are automatic.
Nat pointed out in her fun facts that a ton of the cast members from this movie are also in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which again, like, super iconic from this time period.
So what is the timing of that, though? I don't remember Buffy's year because the TV show
Buffy's in the
messes
90s.
me up. 92.
Yep.
Okay, so so they basically, you're watching like the more slightly grown up version of them.
Yeah, so they were definitely like, this was like probably for some of them their like movie break coming from the world of TV, because for those of you who don't know or don't remember or weren't alive at this point, this era was a very different place for television than it is now. Like it was not big name, huge superstars do TV shows. It was like TV shows is where you got started and sometimes you stayed, and a big, like, getting into a movie even as a bit cast or a cameo appearance would have been huge. So
That's so funny you say that because you forget about that now. Like,
like now it's like,
Netflix
TV,
and
way
Amazon,
better,
Apple.
yeah.
Oh my God, they bring Buffy the Vampire Slayer is Ben Affleck. Yo, I forgot about that. Come on now. Okay, so Jenna Elfman, right?
Jenna Elfman, yes. Dharma.
Yo, when Dharma and Greg was on, I was in love with her and Dharma and Greg. I love that show so much. My roommate Brenda at the time used to just make fun of me because, like, I had to be home on Sunday 7:30. It's Dharma and Greg.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, she was, funny. And she's so great in this. She's like somewhat of the voice of God. Like when Ethan Embry's character is like at his absolute lowest and he's like left the party and he's thrown his letter to Amanda on the ground and he's like, I'm all done, and he's off to college the next day. So it's like he's lost his chance to talk to her. He's given up, and he goes out and drives all around. And he's like really upset about everything. And he ends up encountering, he's trying to call Barry Manilow through the radio station from a payphone, which is glorious. But he bumps into Dharma dressed like an angel coming off a stripper gig, and she gives him all this advice. And in this moment, this is actually, I thought, like sort of a fun flip side to everything all of the kind of anti-LGBTQ plus like sentiment in this movie. This was almost like a hilarious flip to that, where she gives him all of this advice, knowing that he has been trying to call Barry Manilow, assuming that Barry Manilow is the crush that he is trying to win over, and thinking that that's like adorable and amazing. And it's just so cute and so wonderful that like
so good.
She just assumes that and is like in the most like kind of positive, encouraging way, like begrudgingly. She's sort of just like, oh, like I gotta help this kid who's being a pain in the ass. But it was wonderful how.
What's funny is at 98 I was in radio. Like I was just maybe like 4 years in and like sort of top of the thing. And the reason why that part had me cracking up so much is that when you call the station, you normally don't get in on the first try. Yeah. So you got to sit there and go over and over and over and over. And then you finally get in and she hung up on him. So I thought that part was more funny to me because she gets in. And he was, not only did he get through, but he was getting a chance to talk to Barry himself.
I know. They're like about to connect him. Yeah, and like we were screaming at the TV because there's 2 phone booths on either side of him. We're like, what about the other phone booths? Like, to let him make his call. It was just,
you know, I think it also there's a certain level of tension to that too, because it brings back memories of going to a phone book and drop it in your quarter and it doesn't work, and the quarter doesn't come back. Or there's 3 phone booths, you put your quarter in all 3 and none of them work. So it's like you got to go look for another one, right? So it did bring back certain of those things, but also at about this time, cell phones were just starting to pop off, but it was flip phone and expensive and $3 a minute for conversations. So like Tommy said, the other booths are out of order, so super typical. And it's that part is so good. It's just really so good. And at this part, as a person watching it originally or even now, you're kind of frustrated that they keep missing each other.
Yeah, this whole movie, and I would say that this is probably one of the other kind of like negatives I have against this movie is that I really wanted, there's a bunch of movies that are kind of in this era that are this same like love story will they won't they plot that I think just do it a little bit better. Like I feel like you never really get to know Amanda all that well. You never really fully get to understand like why he's so into her. You never hear his whole letter. Like she reads it, like she gets the letter and she reads it. Like I just feel like we miss a little bit of like some of the magic that they could have. Like it's still a hour 40-minute movie. Like, it's still within that same time frame as a lot of these other ones, but I feel like it made me think of movies like 10 Things I Hate About You, for example, where it's like you really feel like
so good.
Even though you're kind of like, will they get together? Do they hate each other? Do they like each other? Like, you really feel like you get to know them and their relationship a little bit better, where this one just is constantly missing ships, which I get it. I get why they did it, but I just like, by the time that they get together at the end, it's exciting, but you're also kind of like, you don't feel like they're as in love as other characters who finally get together at the end of the movie, just because you don't feel like you really know them all that well.
I think it's also, at this time, if I remember correctly, okay, so the genre completely blew up 81, 82, 83, 84, right? And it starts with Animal House, which is like 79 or something maybe. And then, the first big comeback is Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah.
And then Porky's.
Yeah.
And God, there's a whole bunch in that era.
Yeah.
Then that genre just died,
Yeah.
right? It died because
you said you had a couple of them come back though, because you had Superbad and Van Wilder, and there was like a couple of them that were still somewhat in that same vein. I guess Superbad was
Van
more
Wilder.
like trying to get to the party, but it still had a lot to do with like.
Well, Superbad is after this.
Yeah,
right?
no, that's what I'm saying. Like you had this bunch, and then it was like nothing, and then you had a bunch of them that kind of popped up a little bit later.
Okay, so I think the reason why it all kind of went away, say at like the 84 time frame, like the teen, not really, sort of teen angst, like teen sexploitation type films went away, because at 84, 85 was the height of the AIDS epidemic.
Yeah.
So any of the ones that came out was all about like being careful.
Yep.
Right? So it lost a certain amount of the recklessness.
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel like they came back towards the late 90s because there was progress made, and MTV was at a whole brand new height. The Real World was coming out. So like they could go back to exploiting the tensions that is 16, 17, 18.
Yep.
Right? So they went back into that. And also you'll remember after this, they were like, it's still high school. We got to cut it. So everything that came out after, college. Right?
Yeah.
So
that is a really good point. Like it really
Van
did
Wilder,
go,
that whole clique, sorority girls. Oh my God, I got the best story on sorority girls. That might be too new for this show, but we're at the
That's why
movie
we
theater.
said it was okay to be into the 2000s. Go ahead.
Look, we're at the movie theater watching Sorority Girl. I want to say that might be 23-ish. I gotta double check. And it just so happens they get to this part where they're gonna like do the giant what do you call it thing? Slingshot. They're like slingshotting vibrators or whatever at the sorority house.
Yeah.
And it was the funniest part. And I just happened to take a huge drink of water and I couldn't hold it. And I sprayed the whole room in front of me. And the lady and the guy, I was so apologetic, but the lady and the guy was so mad. And she didn't want to accept the apology. So she wanted him to like turn around and say something to me. And then so he turned all the way around, and then there's like me and three of my friends, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, hell no, girl. I'll see you." He just left. And I was like, I'm not that guy, but I was like way bigger than him. So it was just kind of funny that, I was like, this girl's about to write a check this dude can't cash.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not even like that. It was completely my fault. I was super apologetic. Like I wanted to like pay for their movie the whole 9 yards. But just the fact that movie, talk about a spit take, it caught me super hard. I literally sprayed the row in front of me.
All right, I'm gonna shoot into, as we're nearing the top of the hour. I forced Nat to do fun facts, even though she's not here. So here are Nat's fun facts for this movie. So Ethan Embry fought to get the leading role of this movie, the guy that gets the girl, but he was stoned the entire time of filming, so he doesn't at all remember shooting this movie, which I think is incredible. Yep.
That's hilarious.
Melissa Joan Hart, who we've talked about as Sabrina the Teenage Witch, she actually chose a smaller role because she was just so tied up filming Sabrina the Teenage Witch that she just didn't think she could take on more than what she did. And then in brackets it says she was supposed to be the lead, or maybe she leaked that fact herself. So maybe she's making it a bigger deal than it actually was, which would be hilarious. The whole cast has said that they would love to do a sequel to this, but Peter, who plays Mike's character, said that he thinks his character would be too much of a loser for him to want to do a sequel, which is hilarious.
And it pigeonholed him. Peter Farcilli, or how you say his name, Francil.
Yeah, no, I didn't even try.
He never recovered from this role.
No.
Like, I think this role typecasted him so hard, he's definitely one of the ones that never bounced back out of this.
Although he is in Twilight, because I have Natalie's live reactions to this movie as well, and she was very excited to see him in this again.
Twilight.
There you go. This movie takes place on June 17th, 1998. A lot of the scenes were edited and even CGI'd to make sure that the movie was not R-rated, because this was pre-American Pie and therefore pre-R-rated teen movies. So this is a lighter version than it could have been or than it would have been. Stoner Guy and Watermelon Guy's conversation about Velma being a hip lady is a nod to Dazed and Confused.
Yes.
Which I thought was absolutely fantastic. And again,
and that's Eric Belfour, who he's done a lot of great things.
Super famous, yeah.
Eric Belfour did a TV show called Hawaii. It sort of predated all of the stuff that turned into Hawaii Five-0.
Yeah.
It was an NBC one series thing, and after that, CBS picked it up, changed it to Hawaii Five-0, and Eric got screwed. But I met Eric a lot when he was out here filming Hawaii. He's a really nice cat.
Oh my gosh.
And Charmed, of course, everybody knows. Charmed.
Yeah, exactly. Charmed. Oh, that's another good one. We could do a whole podcast on just on 90s TV shows. We already mentioned that several of the characters were on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Ethan Embry's characters from this movie and from Empire Records are both in scenes that feature the song Romeo and Juliet by Dire Straits, which the second it came on, I was like, once again, need to download this entire album. So good.
Oh my God. Didn't think about that.
Speaking of Ethan's addiction to weed, Jennifer Love Hewitt didn't want to kiss him this entire movie because he smelled so strongly of weed, and she even gifted him a giant teddy bear filled with mints, which is just fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic.
Oh God, that's too good.
And then the last fun fact for this movie is that the entire cast was greenlit to completely trash this house for the final scene, which I think makes it absolutely epic. And Doc, maybe you've been in this instance. I've been to many a house party, but I never had, maybe this is Canadianism, but I never had the police burst in and the scatter of all of these movies. Did you have that experience in real life?
Oh, have definitely had police scatter, but we would never wreck somebody's house like that. Dirty, yes. Puke in places you wish it didn't happen, yes. Maybe the occasional, what's the word? Tchotchke. The occasional tchotchke broken or something, but like trashing somebody's house? Nah, man, that wouldn't have worked. That wouldn't have went over well. And then we kind of got smart after seeing movies like Animal House and things like that. Here, because I guess it's more accessible, we would take the house parties to hotels. So our famous thing was hotel parties. Yeah. And right down the street, there's what's known as Discovery Bay. Mm-hmm. There used to be these hotels, rooms where you could there's an upstairs and downstairs in the same hotel. So like you could literally have two parties in the same room because they were intended to be like vacation suites. And to this day, if you're looking up vacation, right? Say you and, kids and the husband, you guys are come out, you look at it, and you're like, holy shit, that's $1,200 a night. Comma honor rate, $300. So we've always had comma honor rate. So, or somebody worked at the hotel. Yeah. So we could always get hotels for super cheap. So we stopped doing house parties because of police and because of worrying about people's property. We would just do them in hotels.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, I never had a house party broken up by the police, but I have done hotel parties. We did for my 18th birthday. 18 is legal drinking age in Montreal. there was this really sketchy motel that was on the drive from our apartment into downtown Montreal where we went to school, and we would drive by it all the time. It was called Motel Raoul, a motel. I think it was Raoul.
That sounds
It was like
bad.
super creepy, like literally like the sketchiest possible motel. And every time we drove by it, I was like, we should totally rent rooms in this motel and just throw like a ridiculous birthday party. And Natalie was like, I'm in. So for my 18th birthday party, we rented 2 rooms side by side. You had to pay for the rooms by the hour. That's how classy this motel. And we had an epic party, but it was a lot of fun. It's also why I don't drink tequila anymore. I can't do
So
tequila.
what's funny? Also, super like Rob Reiner is famous for this.
Yeah.
Of course, Stan Lee is famous for this. Trying to think of a couple other ones that always write themselves into every part, but it's so small that you go miss them.
Yeah.
Like Kaplan and Elfin are both in the movie.
Yep.
Kaplan is a grad student, and like her part is like 10 seconds. But I think it's funny when writer directors, and they are the writer director team for this movie,
Yep.
put themselves in the movie in like little weird spots.
Oh, it makes me miss Stan Lee. I was like,
so dude, Stanley did it. Stanley did it better than anybody else.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah, it's kind of funny, going just thinking of all the different people that are in this, and it is a good movie. It's not the greatest, but it's definitely one of those ones that it's a good like afternoon watch. It's also one of the ones that isn't ruined by the TNT, right?
Yeah.
So I get so irritated when I see a movie I like and it happens to be on TNT. Because they cut out the dumbest stuff.
I have the reverse
sometimes
experience.
What'd you say?
I have the reverse experience of that. I feel like I watched an insane amount of like movies that had been edited for TV. And so now my kids are little and I'm like, oh, we should watch, XYZ movie. And I have a very different memory of the movie than what the actual movie was because I watched like the TV version of it. And we'll start watching it. I'm like, whoa, this is super inappropriate for
that's super funny. Well, no, because it's I did get a kick out when they're really hilarious but super left changes. Yeah. I crack up on those, right? To this day,
replacements for swear words. Some of them are just like incredible.
To this day, I still say melon farming. Right, you got to get these melon farming snakes off the melon farming plate. Like I still say that because it was dumb funny, right? And then some of them are like, "Yo, this is on cable. You don't have to cut out those network cable uses some of these words now. Just like stop that, Or where it gets so bad, like certain times you'll turn the radio and there's a rap song, and it sounds like the person has a bad signal. Because there's so many cutouts, like the song almost disappears for a second. Yeah.
Like, why play this? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. This movie could totally play on TNT because it's not as bad. Like you said, it was before the full R ratings.
Yep. Yeah.
I forgot how much a stink American Pie made with the RIAA or whatever the heck you call themselves, the MPCG, whatever the heck they're called.
We will definitely have to watch that one. And full disclosure, I have actually only seen that one in French. I watched it in French class. Our teacher, our like very Quebecois teacher, was like, today it's a special treat. We're going to watch a movie. And he just put on American Pie and left. And we were all like, what? Like, this is not appropriate for... And so I've only ever seen it like awkwardly with a class of my high school friends in French.
What?
And it was very weird.
So crazy. I didn't know that.
I will definitely have to check it out again. But I know we're wrapping up, so I want to play some of Nat's ridiculous live reactions. We can react to her. Here's a few.
Okay.
But as it was,
Ethan Embry, my absolute high school crush. And I'm no Amanda, but...
It was her first day of school.
Oh, Ethan Embry. The hope of getting together with your crush in high school, and the only way you could figure out if that person liked you or... all through gossip. All through gossip. Were they single? Of course they weren't. How can you, like... how do you get a chance? Well, house parties. House parties or a high school dance, it always had this sort of energy of being this magical moment where we're going to get what we want. Or something good or amazing or epic will happen. Of course, it never did. Usually always the opposite. This movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Opening sequence of Can't Hardly Wait. Love it. The gossip, high school, Doc Martens, which, let me tell you, the first thing I bought with an adult paycheck were Doc Martens, because I could not afford those in the 90s, but always coveted them. Still have my 12 holes, wear them all the time. The leopard print pants, no, let's just not bring that back. No. Wait,
So good.
Is that Baby Carlisle?
Oh yeah, Baby Carlisle. I cannot handle the ridiculousness of it all. Oh man. And then I just sorry listeners, if you were here hanging out with us on video, you got to enjoy the memes of the foreign exchange student going, Cheetah! Cheetah! He was just absolutely one of my favorite characters. Him and the klepto, fantastic. Just hands down.
Oh my God. It's so crazy. So here's what's nuts about this. Cause when she was talking about the whole house parties, I remember going to different house parties either just because we were bored and we would just try to crash all these different house parties, or because one of the guys in the group, there's 4 of us, one of the guys in the group was trying to go just to get a sight at some girl that he was in love with.
Yes.
Right? Yes. And so here's why this came up during the Supreme Court trials of Brett Kavanaugh.
It sure did. Yeah.
He went to a rival school.
Yeah.
The party in question, my friend who is now a circuit judge, my friend George and I were like, yo, we were at that party, guaranteed. No. Because we hated his school. They're the all boys. They were all like D-bags. They all thought they were better than everybody. And we worked at a restaurant in the mall. So the congressional kids, as we call them, it's called Congressional Heights. It's in D.C. They would come across the Maryland border to Rockville, and they would, go to the stores or wherever, whenever you're working, and it was just super obnoxious. Like they were like the mean girls, whatever. Yeah. Super obnoxious. And so back then, when our school or closer schools around us weren't having any parties, we would always crash the private school parties because they always had lots of beer. And so we would just go. So I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, I know for a fact we were probably at that house that night, and we probably got into a fight with those guys because they were just all I couldn't stand the kids. Citadel Friends and Walt Whitman High School was another high school that was kind of right by where his school was, and they were the public school versus the private school, and they couldn't stand each other. My best friend was a wrestler for Walt Whitman, so we used to always try to crash their parties, so it's just kind of a trip when I watched him doing the thing, because I didn't know who he was, but I know that because I wrestled, I know that we wrestled against their school.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but they were the kids, we didn't care about them. So I know I wrestled against them. He's in a much, lower weight class than I would have been in. But yeah, it's just, so when these movies bring me back to those times, and to think, like I said, somebody who was a nobody in school always got picked on. This dude's sitting on the Supreme Court right now.
Yeah.
So, you never know. This is a lesson to your kids. Don't pick on people in school. You never freaking know.
You never know. Yeah, exactly. Be friends with everyone. Be Ethan Embry. Be Ethan Embry's character in this movie. All right. Correct. Well, we've gotten to the Christian Tater. How many Christian Taters would you give this movie, Doc?
Just general moviness, probably like a 3, but I'll give it a 3.5 because the comedy parts are just classic. They're just classic. It brought back so many memories, like even when Nat said like the Doc Martens, I still got my Doc Martens to this very day. Like, yeah, it's
Well,
brought back a lot of good memories.
you and I were on the
Ooh,
same page.
there
I
you
didn't
go.
I didn't quite have enough time to cut my graphic in half, but I was back and forth between 3 and 4, so I settled on a 3. But I do agree with you. I think it probably is closer to a 3.5, just because it gave me some feelings. It gave me some good feelings. It gave me some not so good feelings, but it definitely had like throughout the movie, it just brought me back, and it got me so excited for like what is now a gigantic list of other movies I want to work through. So
Correct.
it was a good
Oh my
kickoff.
God,
Yeah.
we missed Trip McNeely.
We did.
I forgot about that. We completely missed Trip McNeely. And the only reason why I thought of it because I'm looking at Christian Taylor and I'm like, he kind of looks like Jerry O'Connell.
He does. Yeah, so for those of you who have not seen this movie, Mike has a moment of rational thought where Trip McNeely comes out and explains to him that he's now in college and none of the women want to sleep with him. So it is not, college girls are not just throwing themselves at him, and it has not worked out the way he wanted. But he's so happy that Mike is still with Amanda because she's smoking hot and he should just stay with her forever. And it's his moment of, oh crap, I've screwed this up and I need to take her back. And it does not work out because he tries to take her back and she does not want him back. And at that moment, she has already found the letter. She's found the letter and she knows there's someone else that loves her more. And she just totally gives up. And we didn't talk about, which I think it's kind of an anticlimactic moment in this movie, honestly, is when they finally get to see each other, when she rushes to the bus station and she has his letter and he's like shocked that she's there, and we like find out that they end up together and they stay together for years.
They dragged that out too long.
I just wanted her to read the letter.
Again, they dragged that part out too long, and they're just sitting there like, and I'm like, come on, dude. Like, what are you doing? And so that was good tension. Like, because if you're yelling at the TV, trust you me, the director did that on purpose.
That's true.
Okay. And I know that from screenwriting classes and things, but like, I am cursing this dude out the whole time. Then the other part that was funny, and if you look at it again, not have to watch the movie, you just scroll to the end. He drops his bag on the floor. He runs back over. They stand there and they're making out. And then they cut back to supposedly they're still standing there hours later. His bag is gone.
Somebody, the klepto has taken his bag.
Somebody in Huntington Beach grabbed all his stuff and it's gone. And
that was a missed opportunity. I feel like it would have been great if the klepto had just walked behind them and grabbed the bags and kept walking.
God.
Missed opportunity.
Correct. The klepto guy just comes by and just steals that. That would have been more funny. Or like you see the klepto guy like in a train, just like, and then just taking off. The train. But fun fact, the train was going to Boston.
It was. So I know. It was.
He was on his way from random Huntington. They don't specify which side, Florida or California.
Yeah.
But he was on his way to Boston, and so I think you're right. The part about never giving us the letter was probably intentional, though.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that and they probably did read it at some point, I feel like they cut it and floored it because of the idea that they were going to come back and pull out a sequel.
Yeah, maybe.
So the letter would have been pivotal to the sequel.
Yeah.
And it just never panned out because all the rest of them kids got famous. And they was like, I ain't doing your stupid movie.
Yeah. And in some ways, which again, we didn't mention, but in some ways, what ended up being this like awkward and horrible yet hilarious, romantic interaction between Seth Green's character and the girl that he had ignored all the way through. Like that almost ended up being the like backstory and the romance that I wanted the main characters to have.
100%. That was good writing.
Yeah,
that is actually part of the good writing.
Yeah,
and especially because he is trying to be loved by everybody.
Yep.
And she doesn't care to be loved by anybody.
Yep.
But both of them were projecting exactly the opposite of what they really wanted.
Yep.
And it turns out that is what puts them at equality.
Yeah.
I feel like there is an entire dichotomy in that alone
Yeah.
of what pops off in today's world.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right?
We could probably
There's a
talk for
whole
hours
bunch
on
of
that one.
people barking this stuff, but they don't really mean it. They really want this, and a bunch of people barking this, and they really want that. And if you guys just talk to each other, you're in the exact same spot. But
Yeah.
you're so busy, like trying to put on stuff that happened in high school,
Yeah.
put on the veneer, and it's not really there. So there
Yeah.
you go. There's your lesson for the day, folks.
Well, you nailed it. You were, as always, I mean, you are my co-host on our other show, so it felt like it was going to work itself out. But thank you so much for taking the time to hop on. Now I'm like, well, we should have guests for every show. You should come back.
Man, I'm
You'll have to
looking
pick
at
another
all of these
movie.
movies now. Like, what do I gotta watch again? And like, am I gonna be irritated now that I understand the world better? Movies that were just good because they were good. Like, I went back and watched Airplane,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's painful now.
It
But
is
back in the
painful, yeah.
day, yo, a dime bag in Airplane was a party.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that one's
super
good.
funny.
I know, and we're trying to decide, and everyone can write us in, or leave a comment here on the video, or send me a direct message if you're a friend of mine you're watching. But we're trying to figure out for next week. Kind of want to do. I don't want to get too Valentine's Day-ish, but I am thinking. So Nat's favorite love story is The Labyrinth, which is incredible. And we were trying to figure out, should we do The Labyrinth? Should we do Romeo and Juliet? What were some of our other? We had a couple other different ones that we thought were pretty
God.
epic. So
Romeo and Juliet, there's two
yeah.
of the dopest ones. One is the John Luke ensemble version, right?
Yeah,
with
Baz Luhrmann. Yep.
oh my
Leo.
God, what's her name from Homeless? Not Homeless.
Claire Danes.
Homeland.
Oh man.
Yeah, Claire Danes. I said Homeless. I mean Homeland. Okay. So there's that one, and then there's the Fiennes one, Romeo in Love. No, that's not what
Shakespeare
it's
in
called.
Love.
Shakespeare in Love.
These two are not the same. These two are like Romeo and Juliet. Baz Luhrmann is like the actual Romeo and Juliet script, but takes place in the 90s and is like brilliantly done. Shakespeare in Love has moments. I really enjoyed it, but there's a Gwyneth Paltrow one. I'll have to bring Dane on, and we can see if we can identify Gwyneth Paltrow in that movie. Who is this actress? That'll be too funny.
Yeah, Romeo and Juliet would be a good one because that's the
I'm trying to remember. There were a
quintessential.
couple others, and now I can't remember which ones they were. Of course, I'll think of it the second we pop off. Let me see if I can quickly find. It was Romeo and Juliet. It was also Labyrinth. I know is one of them. Oh, it wasn't even. It was Labyrinth, She's All That, or Sleepless in Seattle.
Oh, come on now. She's All That is so good.
She's All That is pretty great. That's another one that I think like is competitive to this one, and I think is a little bit better. Sleepless in Seattle was like my go-to. I like lived and breathed that movie when it first came out. I loved that movie. But I haven't watched it in a while, so that would be a fun rewatch for me. We'll do all of these movies, so it doesn't really matter what people vote for, but we're thinking about it for next week. So.
Oh, yo.
Yeah, everyone will have to write in, or I post it on Instagram. So vote for your favorites on Instagram. Yeah.
Okay, so I got this one. I can't wait till you guys do this. And at the time, I thought one of the most promising people because he was just such a great actor, and I just thought it was going to be the person who I would resonate with for a long time, and unfortunately, he got disappeared on us, and that's Heath Ledger, and it's 10 Things I Hate About You.
I love that movie. Yeah,
such a great movie.
That was
Knight's Tale is my all-time love story.
Yeah.
To me, the reason why Knight's Tale is my all-time love story is the soundtrack, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
see? The soundtrack matter. Yes, I totally agree. What year is that one? That
2001.
That's in range. We can do that one. Early 2000s.
That movie, because of the soundtrack was one.
Paul
and
Bettany
what's her name? Shannon Sosana.
Yep. She's
I remember watching that movie. First time she went across the screen, I was like, pause. It's like, you're at a theater, you can't pause.
Zoom.
I have back then, Yo, I used to watch that movie over and over and over again. My
Oh.
roommate Brendan would be like, "I'm gonna kill you if we have to look at this again. Like, this is just way too much." And I'm like, "You're like that about Heath Ledger." So it was like she was in love with Heath Ledger and I was in love with Shannon. And she kind of fell off the map after Heath died. I think they might have been friends, and that
Oh.
probably took her out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think she did a lot of stuff after that, but that movie is so
All right, when we watch that movie, you will come back and hang out with
good.
us because that
I
will
don't
be
even have
good.
to watch that one. I know that's on my
You're like,
heart.
I got that in my heart.
Every
Oh,
single one.
that is
Such a
awesome.
good movie.
Well,
Oh my God.
thanks so much for hanging out, Doc. Thanks for
Thank
everyone who
you.
joined us live. If you want to catch us for our live recording, we are on Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. You can find us at youtube.com/at the VHS Club. You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. I usually get episodes out by Friday or Saturday. I should give myself a couple more days, but I'm just like so excited to get them out to everyone. So they come out really quickly, so you can catch this episode pretty soon. If you want to email us, we have a fancy new email address, the VHSclubpod@gmail.com, or you can just drop a comment on YouTube, or if you know us, you can send us a direct message or give us a call. We're more than happy to take all of your movie recommendations. But we have a pretty big list now, so I feel like we're getting there. We're gonna have to keep up with our big list. And Nat and I will be back again next week. The following week, we're gonna have to either record on a different day or take Doc's advice and play a backup episode because it's school vacation week. We'll be on location, but we'll figure it all out one way.
You
or
guys
the other.
you guys need a Discord server
We
so that we
do.
can just put the list so everybody can start doing their homework on all these movies they got to catch up on.
That's true. That's true. And if you want to be a guest, I'm happy to have guests, multiple guests, or people can call in maybe and give their favorite quotes or movies. It's more fun with friends. So yeah, like watching movies, it's always more fun with friends. So hopefully you're watching along with us. Let us know what your ratings are. Let us know if we got the ratings wrong. We're happy to hear. If you think it was 5 potatoes for this one, write in and let us know 5 potatoes. Doc and I
We won't
feel
be
strongly
friends.
3.5. We're the 3.5 potatoes for this one. Well, thanks, Doc. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
And we'll catch you next week. Bye,
All
everyone.
right, please be kind. Rewind.
Please be kind, rewind.